We just know that this is in A. And to be exact, it's A minor, okay? Now, when you're playing notes, minors and majors is the same note. So for A minor, I'm going to use A as my key note, okay? Any A, right? They're all going to, you can hear it, right? They're all going to sound good. Now, the thing to remember is, even though there are 4 chords in this progression, because it's the key of A, I can play an A note over whatever chord is playing. And it's going to sound okay. Might not be perfect. Hear it? Right? So that's the first thing to remember, why it's so important to know the key and to play the key note. Now, as you get better, we can go in the back door and start on the 4th or the 5th chord or the 4th or 5th note of the chord progression. Okay, but again, we're keeping things simple to start. So A. Okay, now unless you're playing a specific scale, this is the second thing you have to think about. So the first thing is the key, right? What's the key? Okay, key is A. The second thing is, what do I want to play? My choices would be, obviously, whatever my repertoire allows me to play. So for those of you that only know the minor pentatonic scale, then it will be A minor pentatonic. If you know the A major scale, you can play A major over an A minor chord. That's not a problem, okay? If you know the major scale or the major pentatonic, major scale, you can play the minor pentatonic. You can play the minor scale. You could probably play a blues scale in A. So whatever it is, you know. Now, most of us, it's limited. Me personally, I know one scale thoroughly. Okay, that's the minor pentatonic. I know most of the positions. And because I know my notes, I really don't have to memorize my positions, because I can, as I'm playing, I know what notes I can only play. And that's the whole idea when you play a scale, right? Remember, you just don't freewheel and play anything. You got to stick to the scale. And the scale is designed so that you only play those 5 notes of the penta or the 7 notes of the major. That's it. And you play the same 7 notes no matter which position you start or move to on the guitar, right? Now, if you don't know any scales, then what I would recommend is a note run. And that is something that I refer to as the Ray scale. All right. That's just something we've over the years. And all that is what I'm going to show you now. So we're not going to think pentatonic. We don't know any scales, right? We've never done this before. Key of A, note of A, any A. I'm going to start here. And I'm going to play 2 frets up. Okay. Under the A, that's the 4th note of the scale. The A is 1. This will be the 4th. And that is my D. Okay. So I'm going to play my A and 2 frets up, which is a B. We don't really have to know. And I'm going to play this note under the A, which is a D, and 2 frets up is an E. So now I got my A, B, D, E. That's the box. So let's take a listen. I can play these notes in any order. Back and forth. I can toggle. I can play them in order. I can go backwards. They're all going to sound pretty cool. Now remember, we don't know what the other chords are. So we're playing an A, a B, a D, and an E. Right? Not bad. Now what we can do, remember the octave, which is 2 over and 2 down. So that's my A. Okay? This was my A where I started, here and here. Okay, there's my A. Now here's my new A. Now I'm going to slide over and put my forefinger here. And now I got the same notes again. A, B, D, E. A, B, D, E. So now I got two little things I can do. So let's see how that works out. Right? I can go. Right? Now, I'm not saying that that is going to win me a Grammy. Not at all. But you can hear that it works. Then what we're going to do is we're going to start through practice, concentrating on starting on the root and working our way back to the root to coincide with the chord progression. Okay, so I was a little early there going back to the root, and that's the main thing that is going to make these four notes, or however many you want to play, even if it's just two going back and forth, it'll sound better if you can emphasize the root note along with the chord that's playing. That just drives it home. Now, if you don't, and you hit your A root when the F or the D chord is playing, that's okay. It's going to sound okay because the A note is your key note. It'll work, we've already proved, with every chord. But you're going to find it a lot better if you can match that root note every time. In other words, at the beginning and at the end, because the reason it's a key, the reason they call it the key, in this case, the key of A, well, what that means is generally the music or the chord progression is going to start and want to resolve, big fancy music word, in other words, return to the A or to that root note. So if we start on a B and we're in the key of B, then the chord progression would go B, C sharp, D sharp, C sharp, B. Now I'm just picking out, it could have been anything, but it will start on a B and it will come back, right? That's the whole idea of these chord progressions, is start out on the key, say something, do something, come to a crescendo or an apex, and then come back, right? Now that could happen in 2 chords, 3 chords, or it could be like 6 chord progression and you finally come back, and it will all make sense. It's resolving back to the keynote. So we want to take that into consideration with our playing. Now, in order to do that, we got to listen, right? We got to listen, and we've got to pick up the tempo, so the beats per minute of the chord progression. We have to match it, just like when we're strumming a song. If the song is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, then we can't play it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Right? Because we're going to be ahead. It's not going to match. We got to match. So when we play our licks, whether they're full out blown 32 bar solos or they are, little riffs, just like little things like we're just playing now, we have to play at the beginning. We got to start playing with the rhythm so that we're all in the same. Right? Okay. How did I know that should be? Well, I didn't, but it sounded good. Okay. I could hear when I hit that D note, you could hear that harmony, that like the way it just all that sound, that magic sound. But I also got it on the A. Okay. So what I'm thinking is this song is either in D, right? But A is a big part of it, right? Because remember, D, A, G is the 1, 4, 5 in the key of D. But it could also be in A because A sounded really good. So it could be one of those songs that is in the key of A, but starts in D. So I just want you to hear these notes again, okay? Again, I don't know what key it is yet, So there's the A. Now I'm going to play that through the whole chord progression. Just remember I told you the real key note will sound good over any chord in the progression. It's pretty good. I'm going to try and do this with the D. There's a hit there. Not so much. It's not bad. So now what I do is I'll play a 4-note box off of both ends of those notes. So what I mean by that is there's my A and there's my D, right? D always under A. So let's start on A, and I'm going to go 2 up and then 2 down. And play those 3 notes. 1, 2, 3 in any order. Sounds pretty good, actually. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same off the D, which is right under the A. Wow, this is a toughie. You can hear that this is the right way to go. In fact, I'm really liking this right here. G, A, C, D. That's what I like right there. So I'm going to say that this song is in the key of A, but it started on a D. Okay? And now next day, when I come back to my guitar, I look down and I find that note, D. And I play my D, E, G, A. D, E, G, A. What's before G? Well, that'd be an F. 2 frets down, there's my F. Now I know I got F, G, A, G, F. What's above an F? Always C. Wow. So now I know C, D, F, G. And I know D, E, G, A. So now I know 2 boxes side by side, and I can tell you every note. But that's all I knew. And I knew, of course, from trying to learn bar chords that G, A, B, C, I knew my top, right? Well, if that's an A and this is a B, well, then I got D and E right under it. Okay? And if this is a D, what's before a D? What's a C? And now we're back to that. So now I got G, A. And that's how it just, I always knew this was an A. And I don't know why, but I always knew 3rd string, 2nd fret. So when I looked down, I saw the last gold string in the 2nd fret, and I always knew that was an A. So now in this area, I have an anchor, A. If that's an A, that's a B, right? A, B, A, B. Cross the border. Right there is my D. So there's my A, B, D, E. 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 It's the same everywhere on the guitar. Right? We can just do that. And someone else might be doing this. Right? So we're not carrying the melody. We're just adding something here and there. That's it. So it's not a solo. It's not lead guitar. We're just adding, I call them accoutrements. We're just adding little things. Okay? It could be as simple as, something like this. But you listen to the music and you play it every time it comes around. Every time that spot. Because remember, 99 times out of 100, music that we listen to, that we create, or that we cover, or whatever, or play, there's usually structure to it. It's usually the same thing. So you've got a verse with these chords in it and these beats to the bar and these many bars in the chord. Then you go to a chorus that is certain way. It may be the same chords, it may be different, but it has its own structure. Then you go back to the second verse, which 99 times out of 100 is the same as the first verse. So you have that structure. So now when you're listening, you know what to expect. Okay. And you pick out spots. So you know that 1, 2, 3, 4. Lick, 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 lick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lick, 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 lick. Right? That's how you would space it out. It's not. And that's what. And I can feel when I come up, I can feel the pick being kind of like wrestled away from me. Not when I go down, but when I come up. Right? Okay. So we've got to wrestle that. We got to get that under control. The next thing that we need to work on, not so much variations or strumming patterns. I'm a believer that the strumming patterns are in place to get you started, right? To point you in the right direction. And then you take it from there. And as a result, what I do, I have a go-to strumming pattern. So whenever I approach learning a song, I just use that strumming pattern. And it's usually this one here. Nice. My tuner, not this one, but my tuner, I have another Snark tuner. It's a little square blue one, and it has a slot right on the top of it. I never knew what that was for. And then I found out because I never read the instructions that you get with those little boxes, the tuners. And I read the instructions one day and it had a little holder. I don't think I have it with me. Maybe I do. Is this the one? Let me see if this is the one. Let me see if this is the one. Is this the one? Yeah. No, it's not. It is. Right? So I have a holder on the end of my pick thing. So, and I never knew that. How many years? And I never knew that until like a few months ago. All right. So me, okay, I don't get all hung up on learning new patterns. So this was my go-to. And if it doesn't work, then I improvise from there. Wherever I need to go, whatever it takes to get the job done. But you know what? That can't be it. Like your strumming can't be just, okay, learn 6 strumming patterns and you're good to go. I've always thought that there has to be more to it. And I think I'm right. I think there is more to it. And in order to get to the next level, I'm going to call it advanced strumming because I truly believe this. You have to have some things in place. You've got to be ultra comfortable, ultra confident. But more importantly, you've got to take your pick and be 100% with it. Okay. You can't have it moving around. So we've got to solve that issue. Then we need to have a consistent touch. I call it touch and feel. So no matter what we're playing, we're even. It could be all heavy like this, but it's even. It could be all soft, but it's even. Okay? We have a nice light touch on the strings. Now, before you're wondering, it takes years, in my opinion. Now, if some of you have been playing 8 months and you've got a beautiful thing, beautiful little touch going on, and you can just touch those strings the way you want to, dig in when you have to. Isn't that advanced strumming what I just did? Right? Think about it. Because when we play a chord progression, don't we sound like this? Right? Or maybe the chord progression is. Right? So what's this? What's that? I don't know. Yeah, trying to find what matches, the beats of the song, right? And again, if you're learning from Google, a lot of times it'll tell you, like it'll say, here's the song, here's the chords, and here's the recommended strumming pattern. And more often than not, they're pretty right or close, right? But what about when you got to do something different? Like ultimately, if we think that, okay, so we play 6 strumming patterns, well, aren't we now painting ourselves into a corner? Because we have to play one of the 6 strumming patterns. And if we decide to stick to that strumming pattern, then we're going to play the same thing throughout the whole song. Right? Aren't there going to be songs that we have to change the strumming pattern because of the vibe of the song or the beats or the tempo changes or something like that? Like, you see where I'm going with this? I don't know. But there can't be just, even though we all rely on a few strumming patterns, in fact, some people just play 1 or 2 and they play that for every song that they play. And I got to be honest, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but there's more out there. So what I started doing was I just started not worrying about strumming patterns. Like, what's this? Is this a strumming pattern? This isn't a strumming pattern, or is it? So for me, I started to combine strumming patterns with note picking. And then let's take a look at something like this. Like, I'm going to try to build up a rhythm to it. Like, I know it's hard. There's my hand. Is that a strumming pattern? See what I mean? Am I on the right track here? Like, I don't know. Because I've never seen anywhere where they give you a strumming pattern and it's like this. Is that a strumming pattern? I think I'm just trying to replicate what I'm hearing in my head. So if the drummer's playing a bunch of cymbals and stuff, maybe I'm doing something like that, especially in the high. But is that laid out in the song somewhere? Right? Well, you probably can't sing to it, but Yeah, see, there you go. So there's where Dairy Gary, Dairy Jerry. That's where I'm going with this. In my opinion, and I don't know this, guys. Okay, I don't know. I'm just saying, in my opinion, the next level of strumming is kind of like what you're saying is, but it all revolves around playing fast. So speeding everything up, right? Playing some trills, some triplets, but for the most part, even like that's more note playing technique. We're still we're still talking about playing we're still talking about playing um we're still talking about playing chords for the most part. So where I'm getting with this, and Derry, you're just a little bit ahead of me here. So where I'm getting with this is speed. Is speed the advanced strumming that I'm talking about? So basically taking our strumming patterns. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It's a pattern, right? So it's like a loop over and over and over again, right? And I don't think they're advanced either. I think they're just strumming patterns. So if that's the case, how do we play, as Derry said? I think his comment was alluding to the fact that uh, in certain music like Irish traditional, right, and others like maybe Indian music, that there just seems to be a lot of this going on. I don't know if that's a strumming pattern. Okay, so what do we need to do? We got to add speed. That's the first thing. That's the obvious thing, right? To what I call advanced strumming. Is it just a speed thing? All right. So if it is, now we got to change the way we do everything. So hear me out here. So when we're taught to strum, right? Remember this? Elbow. Okay, so pendulum, don't stop moving. Whether you play or you don't play, there's the way we're taught to strum. And that lasts us for a long time, right? Because that's the principle of strumming. Keep the metronome, right? And just up and down. Now, in order to play real fast, it's a little hard to do because the further exaggerated our pendulum is, the further out of position we are to attack the strings again a second, third, fourth, fifth time. In other words, it's going to take us longer. It's going to take me longer to get from down here back to strum or from up here back. And the longer and further I travel, the more prone I am to making a mistake on landing, right? So what I did was I just rethought the whole thing. So instead of using my elbow as the anchor, right, I kept the elbow still and I roll the wrist. It's all from the wrist now. So the wrist is the elbow. Okay. That's the elbow. So by bending the wrist and not the elbow and being closer to the strings, so I'm hovering over the strings and my pick will not go, and if it does go past, it's negligible, the sixth string and the first string. So I'm ready to attack, right? Right there. Now, the rest really is speed. So now that I'm in this position, okay, and I've got good control of my pick. Have I found a new technique, or are we just playing the strumming patterns ultra fast? Right? Which one am I doing? Because I don't know. Okay. I think it's a little bit of both. So, as Derry was saying, there are certain types of music. Now, I'm not a big aficionado on Irish traditional music, but yes, it has that. Whenever you got a fiddle, right, that means you're playing, high notes fast, right? That's kind of it's just like the drummer when he hits that, those are is it the crash or whatever, the or the hi hat? He's playing, you should be playing high notes, I believe, fast. They're playing probably 16 or 32 30-second notes. Well, to keep up on guitar, then you would have to increase your strumming, right? So I could be over analyzing this. Absolutely. Maybe I am. I tend to do that. But it seems to me that if we just stick to this, we can never really truly play anything we want. I wouldn't be able to play Irish music or maybe some Indian music or any music, punk rock, some of the punk rock music so fast. The Ramones, man, Ramones used to finish a full set in 21 minutes because each song was a minute and a half because they played. And then the song's over. What are they doing? Well, I think we all know they were playing power chords. Okay, so they're playing power chords, or they're just playing them fast. It's harder than it looks, trust me. So I'm going to leave you with that to think about. Is that advanced strumming? And maybe someone can demonstrate their version of advanced strumming, whatever, But it seems to me that there has to be something else out there that we haven't stumbled on yet that other people are playing. Now, we also know that a lot of times when you hear something really fast, even if it's the note pickers, right, that are doing these little triplets and trills right here like this, these little, what they call trills, right? And it's giving that effect of, right? We also know, though, that you can throw in a delay or an octave pedal or something to replicate the diggy to make it twice as fast. So meanwhile, the guy is definitely playing fast, but when you play into a certain effects pedal, it could be. So we don't know if it's man-made or if it's engineered, right? We don't know. But it seems to me that there has to be other ways to strum. Or is it just, are we still playing down, 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 up, 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 am I still playing down, 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 up, up, what am I doing? So if you know, tell me, because I'd like to know. But I think you're going to find that we're not finding any new strumming patterns. We're just playing the ones we already know ultra, ultra fast. And that's cool. I'm good with that because that expands your repertoire. But remember, if we're going to, for now, take that approach, that's the way we're going to do it. It's the same strumming patterns. So if you only know 4 strumming patterns, you don't have to learn another 4. You just got to learn the 4 you know and how to play them super, super fast. And to do that, we got to have that technique in place. You got to have full command over your full command. Because when you're playing like that, if you're playing in some way like that, you don't have time to fix any messes. So if you lose control of your pick, you might as well just throw it away and continue on with your fingers, because you won't have time to rejig it. Okay. The second thing is, remember, we have to change the way, we have to go against everything we've learned, and we have to change the way we strum, right? And we have to make sure that we are putting ourselves in a position that we can actually play that fast. Now, can we do it this way? Yeah, we probably could. Now, what the first thing I find, I can't get that, that little, I can't get that. Now, remember, if I sat here and did it for a week, maybe, but I can't get it. Like if I want to, all right, Dermot, I'll buy that. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I mean, again, it's all about playing 16s and 32s, right? At some point, and I that's kind of the point here, is that I tend to agree with you, Dermot, in that we are just playing what we learned day one, but we're playing it ultra fast. And I think that's the way to start with this, because there's no doubt somewhere down the line, I know I want to be able to play in a song, and I want to be able to, maybe if I want to, or even write something where I got that going on. Then I can slow it down. It just gives you more versatility. So that's kind of what I mean by advanced strumming. Now, if anybody can shed any light, even if it's for next week or whatever, I'm all ears. So right now, I tend to agree with Dermot in that you're still playing the same patterns, but we're playing them super fast. And then, of course, then you have to adhere to, we don't have to, but I recommend you adhere to a new way of strumming, right? Because you will not be able to continuously, I mean, how fast can I do? Now, remember, I can go really fast like this, but will the quality of the strum be there? Because remember, the further away you go, the harder it is, right? But I can't get that. That you got to be right on the strings, right? You got to be right there. And even I feel I'm a little heavy-handed here. Now, it's hard sometimes to tell with the microphone and all that. Maybe it's that, but I feel I'm a little heavy-handed. So this is something that isn't easy, right? And this is something I wouldn't even try until I've got my strumming basics down pat, right? When I've got some flexibility and I've got full control of my pick and I've got some experience and I'm ready for the next thing. And that's what we do here on Thursdays, right? Is we go to the next level, or we try to push to the next level. So this is something I wouldn't try starting out. I wouldn't try this if you've only been playing a couple of years. You wouldn't try this until, like I said, you've got full control of your pick and your touch and feel on the strings. Because if you don't have touch and feel on the strings, this is what you're going to sound like. And to me, that's just too much. It's too overbearing. I don't know how that is coming out through the microphone, but I'm assuming it's going to be, whoa, Ray, what are you doing there? Okay. And that's because I didn't apply any touch and feel. I just attack, right? So until you have your touch and feel, so important. Then I would make the adjustments to the wrist for the strumming, keep your pick over the strings and try to develop that. Try to come up with a pattern to practice to, like something like that, right? Where you can start strumming easy and free and like we do every day, and then add a little something to it. But anyways. Yeah, so that's what I do. So I do that. I mix the arpeggiating with chord playing, whether I use a pick or not. And before I show you again what I do and how I do it, I just want to make sure that we understand. And again, someone just mentioned a pick too, right? Uh, the pick makes a big difference. If my pick is too heavy, if it's too thick, it's going to, unless I've got real superior command, it's going to be heavy on those strings. It's going to sound overbearing. So you can go with a much lighter pick. You can get lighter than the ones I use. I'm around this one here is around a 48. Sorry, it's a 53. This is a 53. I don't have one with me, but the next color down, I believe, is yellow. And I think that's about a 44 or 45. And then there's a white. And the white is literally like a piece of paper. Right? So could that make a difference in our strumming? Let's see if I've got something here. Let's see what we got here in this little box of doohickeys. It's always good to have some spares around, right? Let's see what I got in here. Oh, that's no good. These are all hard picks. I don't think I have any nice, easy picks around because I never use them. Maybe when I was starting out, but let's see what we got here. No. Oh, what's that? No. All right. We are not having any luck with I don't have any picks that are super, super thin. I wish I did. So the green ones are the lowest I have, unfortunately. But yeah, a really light pick would make a difference for sure. And fingers. You can use your fingers, right? That's another alternative. But really nothing beats a pick. So yeah, for sure. If anybody has a pick in the 40s or even late 30s, like 38, 39, 40, give that a try. Now it's really, really, really thin. But as Dermot's suggesting, it's probably good because the pick will actually, be dragged across, like it'll kind of move, do its own thing, right? Yeah, I do. I use a light one as well. Again, I use the green ones, 53, but I also use a purple one in this brand. They're colored. The purple one is the next one up, so it'd be about a 60. And I use that when I'm just picking out notes. And then I got these, tried these. Someone gave me one and I liked it. So I bought more of them. And they're called Dava, Dava. And they're kind of weird. Like they're they're rubbery. They're like rubber. And they got a little kind of like a rubbery plastic end. And they're pretty cool. Now they're a little stiffer, but it's my go-to picking pick. Really good control. Like it's firm and they're called Dava, and they're really cool. I had never seen them before, and then when I went to one of these fancy guitar shops, they had a pack, so I bought them, and they're really cool. So that's a suggestion. I use them again for note picking. I don't really use them. I mean, you can strum with them, and the beauty of using a really thick, heavy pick for strumming is it really helps you if you use a pick that you're not used to, and it's a lot heavier and thicker, and you can get it to the point with some practice that it sounds like, to me this is a little harsh, but you get it to the point where you can make it sound kind of nice and smooth. Then when you go back to your pick, especially if you use it for like 3 days, oh, see, even just that little bit. It's kind of cool. Like it's all right. So, all right. That's really what I wanted to cover today. And I'd like to hear more about the, the advanced strumming. Dermot, to answer or to your suggestions is probably the best way to go. And a lot of people ask me, how do you play guitar? Like, what's your favorite way of playing guitar? And my favorite way of playing guitar is generally without a pick. Okay. And I like the combination of strumming chords and arpeggiating. That's what I like. Okay. And I usually, again, I got a gray Dunlop 73. I got the same one. And I have the white Dunlop, which is pretty light, somewhere in the house. Yeah. That's, I think, yeah, Dermot, I think that's the thing I'm thinking of is if you go with the real thin one, I think it would only be good for those, those ones that I was talking about where you want to play like this, like you want to play like you want it to be really fast and wispy, but then maybe you got to swap the pick out when you, I don't know. So, but yeah, the Dunlops I've always had, I don't have a lot of them, but the Dunlops are pretty good picks for sure. But yeah, for me though, even if I don't use a pick, my preferred method of playing is a little bit of both. Right, a little bit of picking, a little bit of strumming, a little bit of everything. I like the arpeggiating, like the effect. And the first time I did it was on the D chord. So if anybody has never arpeggiated their chords, in my opinion, the D chord sounds the best. That's just me, right? But I like the G or the E because you can use all 6 strings. Where when you arpeggiate a D chord, you really only have those 4 strings that you should play. Okay, that's the open D, and then the other 3 strings that are in that chord. And that's the basic rule of arpeggiating your chords is you only pick out the strings that are involved in making the major chord, right? So in this case, if I'm arpeggiating on a G chord, I can use string 1, 2, 3, and the open 4. That's it. I can't use the 5 or the 6. So there's an arpeggiated D chord. Now I can strum it. I can pick it. Strum it. Pick the C. Strum the G. Pick the G. And for all of your sakes, don't try to memorize picking patterns. I know I've seen sites, I've seen where they play the go 5, 3, 4, 2, 5, 6, 3, 4. Don't do that, please. Okay? You're just setting yourself up for a lot of headache. Now, I understand if you want to learn a certain riff to a song, okay, and it has to be precise. I understand that you're going to want to see exactly what note or string that needs to be picked to achieve that sound. I get it. But when you are playing and creating and even just playing along, don't worry about. Let your intuition, let your feel take over, and you'll get to the point where you'll know, okay, I'm picking out a G chord. I know that if I want something low and bassy, I'm going to work these 3 strings here. You don't even have to look, right? I'm only playing these top 3 strings, 6, 5, and 4. If I want something trebly on that G, I'm going to go down here. Maybe I'll take my pinky off, let it ring out as an E, put my pinky back on, whatever. But I've got some versatility. Or I can just randomly pick the whole from top to bottom. And you'll just know, oh, that sounded good. I'm going to repeat it. And there it is, repeat it. You just know. Don't think about it. Don't go 6, 4, 2, 1, 6, 3, 1, 2. Don't do that. You'll just don't do it. Okay? That would be like, that's the equivalent of trying to play a song that you don't know and you're reading it off the iPad as you're playing along. You're just setting yourself up for failure. Now, it don't matter if you're with a bunch of friends in a basement having a few pops. That don't matter. But when you want to sound right, you do not want to be reading your lyrics. You don't, yes, you can use an iPad. I forget things too. But use it as a guide, as a refresher. Like a lot of times I'll look down and I'll see verse 2 and I just need to see the first couple of words and then I know the whole verse. Okay. That happens to me a lot, old age and all that. Okay. But do not rely on memorizing everything. Learn to play by ear and feel. Learn that when you have that G fretted, you just know that if I want something low and bassy, I'm going to stick here. If I want to mix it up, right? Try something different. All right. So again, we talked about a few things today. I think that not everybody is into it. Not everybody is going to be able to do it, but we covered some ground and we talked about some things. We caused a debate as to whether or not there's more to strumming than we know. And again, my answer is yes, there is. But I think for the most part, when you look at that alternative or advanced or different strumming, I think for the most part, you're just taking what you've already learned and what you're already playing, but you're ramping it up to play it a lot faster and with a lot more texture, right? Meaning that we're not going to be uniform the way we strum the pattern. So now I'm being this way, but when I go to the C, I'm being more choppy and rhythmic. Now I'm going back into the strum and then still the same up, down, all that. It's just I'm playing it different. I'm approaching it differently. right? And then you take into consideration other things like we didn't talk about, like the palm muting and adding that into your strumming. And you can create different textures and you can create different members of the band. You can create a bass player or you can create a drummer that's droning on like a kind of a beat. You know, with just fiddling around with different strumming techniques, you can sort of add some emphasis, right? And that's all we can really do as one-man bands, right? So, all right. Well, look, I think we've done some pretty good stuff. And as usual, thanks for everything. I'm glad I'm back to right-handed. We'll see how long this lasts. And but it seems that the problem is with the iOS. I don't know for sure, but it's what it seems like. There's something there between YouTube and it, and that makes sense because I think they do it on purpose. Because what YouTube is owned by Google, which is on the Android side of things, the PC side of things, right? I guess. So maybe it's in their best interest that Android and PC work better on there than iOS, maybe. I don't know. You know, Google has their own phones. So does that mean that if I use a Google phone, everything works perfect all the time with Google Chrome? You know what I mean? Like, are we down to that now where you got to kind of stay in your environment? Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But where the search continues. So in the meantime, if anybody finds out, or if anybody has the same problem, anybody that streams and they're coming out mirrored, even though they're not mirrored, like their settings aren't set for that, let me know if you find a fix. And I'll do the same. So I got my ticket in YouTube and I've heard back for extra information. I haven't heard anything since I sent everything back. So, all right. So we will see you. I will be on at some point over the weekend. We had some fun last weekend. I think I came on Friday night. We played some songs. Randy, I can't post your video because it's not on an existing platform. Again, YouTube. So I can't, when I go to post it the way I did for Mr. Super Sidewinder, the reason I was able to post his is that it's a link, right? So I go, check this out, and I put the link in. It doesn't have to be on YouTube, but it has to be somewhere so that I can only post the link. I can't post the video. If I post the video, it goes into my videos feed, right? And comes out as a Ray video. As far as I know, right? That's, again, YouTube. It's beyond crazy. So if your video was, say, on a Facebook page or on a YouTube page or on a website somewhere, then I can post the link, but I can't just post the video. So Mr. Super Sidewinder has a YouTube page. So I was able to just do that and it came up automatically. There's the page, there's the video, whatever. So I tried. Now there might be a way around it. If anybody knows, you can let me know, but it doesn't look like I'm able to without it going as one of my uploads, which I could maybe one day put it into one of my videos, right? As an example of something. I'd be happy to do that. But that's for now. All right, everybody. So once again, yeah, it's great to have you back, Dermot. I know a few people were asking about you, and again, I nothing crazy or personal. I just assumed that maybe you'd put the guitar down for a while, or maybe you're busy with other things or whatever. And hey, that happens, right? So, so yeah, take a look on the weekend. I should be on. As I was saying the other night, we had a good time. We played some songs. I played a few of my tunes, and I enjoy doing that once in a while. It's fun, and I hope you appreciate it. And if you don't, that's okay too. Just tell me stop doing it. But it seems to people seem to get a kick out of it because you only see me this way. And I got a couple of open jams that I've kind of been invited to over the next little while. So I'll keep you informed and take a video when I can. And other than that, hey, just keep doing your thing and just keep remembering that, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? So, and also remember that any of this stuff that I show you or that you see out there anywhere else, you don't have to know it in order to play a really good guitar. Learn things that suit you and only you, right? Or that benefit you. If they don't benefit you and you don't see yourself using them, don't waste the time to learn them, especially in your first couple of years, because it's going to take you a long time to figure things out. It's okay when you've been, 6, 7, 8 years and you're prolific, then you can learn something in a day and it's no big deal. But right now, learn things that are going to help you tomorrow. Your chords playing, your strumming, your musicality in general. Listen to music, play along to music whenever you can, and just keep the ball rolling. And the gains are little, but as I said, it's a marathon. And all of a sudden you turn around, you look back and you go, wow, I'm getting pretty good. So, all right. Any comments, questions, suggestions, pleas for help? Send me an email. I'll do what I can. And until then, we'll see you again next Thursday as a schedule, but probably sooner as something just to pop on and say hello and play some guitar and have some fun. All right. See you later, everybody.
Enjoy more delivery and pickup options with PC Express.